Okay, so how does this work? How do we play this thing? So, just to make sure you understand how it all works, I'm sure you're going to work out easily enough how to make a sound, but to really have a good grasp on this selection of notes that we've got to choose from, the basic gist of how it works is, of course, when I press the string against the fretboard here, it's changing the sound, and as the further I go this way, as the notes I'm playing, it's making the sound get higher pitched. Okay, so of course, there's other strings to keep track of and all that sort of thing as well. But for now, all we need to understand is that yes, as we start down low, it's low down there, and it's getting higher as we move further up here. Now, what's actually causing that to happen is that most pitched musical instruments work this way. We've got something vibrating. In this case, it's the string, and we've got the full length. And when it's at that particular tension, and that's what we're adjusting with our tuning keys, at that tension, it gives us that sound. Now, when I press the string against the fretboard and move it, move that note elsewhere, we're actually only hearing. Okay, I'm going to just play that note here. We're hearing the string vibrate from there to here. So anything that's happening on the outside is no longer affecting the sound. We've shortened the length of the vibrating element, the string. We've made the pitch get higher. Now, just on that point, I may as well just demonstrate that when I play that note, I get that sound. If I happen to have my fingers on the string anywhere down here, you can see if I press them on, it doesn't affect the sound. They can be on, they can be off, and that'll be important later on. So the first thing we'll do in getting a sound out of this thing is actually getting used to all the physical things that have to happen to actually get the right sound. Now, of course, I'm playing an open string, then there's not much else I can do with that sound. But once we get into fretting notes and this sort of thing, there's actually quite a lot to think about and quite a lot of little nuances, little things that we can do to actually add expression to the sound. So yes, if we were playing piano or something, we just press a button, there's our sound, that's all we can do with it. But on guitar, we're lucky, plus we've got, if we got into electric guitar stuff, we'd be tinkering with effects and things, but that's something for later on. So, for now, what we're going to do is just play a note on we're going to play our high E string, right? Now that we hear you do that first, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to play a note on the first fret of that high E string, all right? So that's making the note higher, so it's turning an E note into an F note. It would always be the first finger that we would use to play notes on the first fret where we can, okay? So it wouldn't make sense for me to slide my hand back over the head of the guitar. That would not be a very economical way of playing. So down here, I'm going to be playing anything on the first fret with my first finger. Something you will get sick of hearing me say is assign a finger to a fret where we can. But for now, all we're thinking about is that first finger playing the first fret on the E string. So when I say I'm playing a note on the first fret, I'm not actually putting my finger right on top of the fret like that. The sweet spot to get the best sound is actually as close as you can get to the actual fret without actually being on top of it. So sort of still with your finger pressing against the wood, not the metal of the fret, but the actual fretboard, but just back, just on the nut side of the fret that we're aiming for. You can see what's going to happen is if I put my finger right on top of the fret, the note it can still sound out close enough a lot of the time, but I'm having to work a little bit harder and press harder to actually make that note sound out. Also, I've only got a really small amount. If I just move that finger, a millimeter higher towards the bridge here, moving this way, then at some point that note is actually it's going to start to sound like the next fret and the note higher, obviously. Then we'd be guessing as to, we wouldn't be sounding like the song that we're trying to play. So if I'm over the first fret, it can very easily become, in this case, an F becomes an F sharp note. Then if I move it too far the other way, now it'll still work, but even it doesn't actually work, but it might work in other spots later on when we're using other frets where you can actually move a little bit further away from the fret. You won't cause a problem with the tuning or anything, but a lot of the time that'll mean you got to work a little bit harder, you got to squeeze a bit harder to get that note to sound right. So the best way to go with a minimal effort is actually, as close as you can get to the fret without actually being on it on the nut side. You can see that's what's going to happen. There's my clean sounding F note. Now at this point, some people pick that up straight away and they get the exact right sound without needing any adjustment to their technique. But there's actually that physical act of making that note sound out. There's quite a lot of things we need to be conscious of. The first thing is the position of the thumb. So the thumb should be pointing straight up to the sky, sort of halfway. Oh, that's not a very good way to demonstrate it. It's around the middle of the neck of the guitar there. So it's not drifting too far over the top, and it's definitely not down here. I don't want to clamp with the ball of my hand there. Now, what's a common thing to see is because of the shape of the neck of the guitar, it seems to be sort of similar to the shape of this part of your hand. So people want to get it in there in their hand, and away you go. But even though there are plenty of exceptions to this rule, there's plenty of guys out there who have some unorthodox ways of playing, and that's a pretty common one for some of those old blues guys with really big hands. It probably doesn't matter so much. But for most of us, the best thing to be thinking about is definitely thumb pointing straight up to the sky when you're playing. So it's okay. I'm just trying to get the shot right. There we go. And the reason for that is that we're now putting most of the strain on the big muscle in the hand. It's the one that's clamping things together. Okay, obviously you need some hand strength to get chords and things to work properly, but you don't need to be a bodybuilder or anything like that. You're just trying to disperse the energy in a spot that can handle it in your muscles in your hands. Okay, so this one's much stronger than trying to let these little ones in the back of the hand have to do all the work when it becomes strenuous pretty quickly. To add to that now, we've also got to make sure that we're not letting our arm do any weird things either. If it sort of comes out here, and that sort of feels awkward to me just to demonstrate it, but some people seem to want to let their hand come in at this angle a little bit more. So that's another thing to just be conscious of. When you're getting into challenging chords and things, seeing what happens when you readjust the elbow in either direction can sometimes make things a little bit easier. All right, everyone's a little bit different with that. So as well as that, we've also got to be conscious of now whereabouts on our fingertips are actually contacting the string. So, making this E note into an F note on the high E string there, a lot of people would want to put their finger flat and sort of, put it on this part, the sort of the pad of the finger, but we're actually trying to get it further closer to the fingernail. Okay, so it's actually sort of right under that fingernail, because that part is actually, the skin's no different at first, but it's got a more of a firmness to it. The bone might be closer to the surface of the skin or something there, but either way, you're going to have to do that, particularly when we start to play notes on other strings, just to get that precision that you need, that accuracy of where that finger hits the fretboard, close to the fingernail. When you do that as well, that's also hopefully going to correct another bad habit that I often see, and that is letting the knuckle flatten out this way. When the knuckle contacts the string, it shouldn't be doing that. It should be arched like this. Now, you don't need to have really flexible fingers. Some people are like double jointed in that end knuckle. It's not necessarily an advantage for playing that you can actually bend that knuckle without bending the second knuckle there. There's not really any times where you would have an advantage from playing guitar by letting that knuckle go that way. That's the same for any of the fingers when we start using them as well. That not that, but always that, if I'm demonstrating that properly. There we go, like that, and not letting them flatten out. So again, that would mean that this F note's going to look just like that and not that. Now the other thing is, this will vary a little bit depending on how big your hands are. By having the thumb pointing straight up to the sky, it will give you, what's the best way for you to see this? It'll give you an arch, okay, between where the neck of the guitar is and where your hand is. Remember I was mentioning before about how people wanting to play with this part of the hand around the neck like that. When we're actually playing correctly, we've got this big arch in our hand there. Okay, now I do have pretty big hands, so that's going to be a lot smaller if you are with smaller hands, and also playing with a nylon string acoustic guitar, which have the thicker neck. So we've got quite a few things just into making that one note like that. What do we got to think about? We've got to think about where the thumb is pointing straight up. We've got to make sure there's an arch between the hand and the neck of the guitar. We've got to make sure that our fingers are arched like this. In this case, we're only using one finger to play the note. We're arching it. We're putting it close to the fingernail. We're getting as close to the fret as we can without actually being right on top of it. Excellent. Okay, now what did I actually do with my right hand then to make that note? Now, this is a personal thing. As we go along, I generally encourage students to bring in the use of the pick. But to start off with, it's all going to probably feel unnatural and uncomfortable to you, so you might be better off just using the thumb to play anything when we're starting out. When I do that, it's sort of just on the corner of my thumb in right there, and that's the part that contacts the string as I play the note like that. Okay. So I'll keep an open hand here, and well, that didn't sound very good. There we go, just on the corner of the thumb. So a lot of people, when they start out making a sound, think that they've got to get their thumb underneath the string and pull it out. And you see straight away it gives me a plucking sound that could be desirable sometimes, but for the most part, it's you know, that's not what people are going for with the sound of particularly an acoustic guitar. So yep, just brushing the corner of the thumb in a downward motion here, and trying to actually not move too much. Okay, so not like that, because it's going to slow you down later on. Okay, so to follow on from that, we've turned our note on our E string into an F note. Now let's try a different finger with fretting here. So we're going to turn this F note into a G note. Now that's going to be on the 3rd fret. So in order for us to play that efficiently, we're going to be sticking with assigning a finger to a fret. So we're going to be using our 3rd finger, our ring finger, to play the note on the 3rd fret, in this case the G note. So that's the sound we're going for. Okay, now if it's buzzing on you a little bit, it's probably going to mean that you need to try and squeeze a little bit harder. And at first, we are toughening up the skin as well. So, you know, we've got to form calluses there. So, and it doesn't take long at all. It doesn't mean you need to be really practicing for 6 hours a day or something initially to just build up the skin in those calluses. But at first, it's really going to feel like the strings put those lines in your finger there. Now, obviously, we're not wanting to cause ourselves a lot of pain here, but at first, if we are getting the notes buzzing, making those kinds of sounds, the most common thing is that it's just needs a little bit more pressure, and so then that's where you can check the position of your thumb. Try not to let it drift over the top of the guitar too much. Keep it sort of out of my view from here, and getting it in the right position on the fret as well. So as it gets further away from that fret, if I can't reach it, it's going to start to make the buzzing sounds. Nasty, not what we want. Even if you have big hands, you may not have built up the sort of flexibility there yet. So at first, it might mean that you're going to have to sort of bring that 3rd finger and reposition the hand a little bit. In the long run, the whole idea with the assigning the finger to a fret thing is so that we can just plant that thumb somewhere, in this case down here, but it could be up here or whatever. We plant it there, and we don't really need to look at our guitar or anything to know that we're playing the right note. Just go back to the F note, that's it, and just move it around. Try different adjustments where the fingernail is, just to see what sort of sound you can get. There's a little bit of a difference there, just in how close to my fingernail I'm getting that note. Okay, so that's what I want there. Okay, let's go back to the G note. Okay. Hey there, thanks for watching that video. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe. We've heard all that before. But if you want some accompanying material as you work your way through these videos, be sure to visit the link right there, johnnynedwich.com, free guitar lessons, and that's going to hopefully clarify things a little bit more, but also you'll be notified when the next lessons are ready to go, and we'll just carry on getting better and better and having a lot of fun playing these things. All right, cool. See you soon.